Welcome to our channel. Your ultimate news aggregator bringing you the world's most critical stories in one convenient place. We scan through thousands of sources so you don't have to, saving you hours of research time while keeping you informed on what truly matters. If you value staying ahead of the headlines, smash that subscribe button and hit the like icon right now. Because what we're about to reveal will shake everything you thought you knew about nuclear deterrence in the modern age. The headlines scream one story. Ukraine strikes Russia's nuclear bombers, but here's what they're not telling you. The truth behind those headlines is far more complex and far more terrifying than anyone wants to admit. January 9th, 2026. The world wakes up to reports of a massive Russian assault on Ukraine, 242 drones, 36 missiles. And for only the second time in this brutal four-year war, something that makes even seasoned military analysts freeze in their tracks, Russia unleashed the Oreshnik. This isn't just another missile. This is a hypersonic intermediate-range ballistic weapon capable of carrying nuclear warheads, traveling at Mach 10. That's 10 times the speed of sound. Imagine a meteorite screaming through the atmosphere. Unstoppable, unavoidable, hitting its target before air defense systems even register the threat. President Putin himself said that several Oreshniks in a conventional strike could match the devastation of a nuclear attack. Let that sink in for a moment. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed this was retaliation. They said Ukraine had attempted to assassinate Putin by striking his personal residence near Valdai in December. But here's where the story gets murkier. President Trump denied it happened. Ukrainian officials called it a fabrication. The Kyiv Post conducted an extensive fact-check and found absolutely no credible evidence that Putin's residence was ever targeted. So, if the attack never happened, why did Russia launch one of its most advanced weapons systems at western Ukraine? Before we continue, take a second and leave a comment below. Do you think this was a genuine retaliation or a calculated message to NATO? And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, because this story gets even more intense. The Oreshnik struck near Lviv, western Ukraine. Just miles from the Polish border, the symbolism couldn't be clearer. This wasn't about hitting military targets deep inside Ukraine. This was a message delivered directly to NATO's doorstep. Ukrainian intelligence revealed the missile has 6 warheads, each carrying 6 submunitions. That's 36 individual strike elements from a single launch. Military communications specialist Sir Beskrasnov said it plainly. This wasn't meant to cause global devastation. It was meant to demonstrate capability and resolve. It was Moscow saying, we can reach anywhere we want, anytime we want. But the Oreshnik was just the beginning of that night's horror. Kyiv turned into a war zone. For people killed, including a paramedic responding to earlier strikes, at least 25 wounded. Apartment buildings shattered. Nearly 6,000 buildings left without heat as temperatures plunged to -8 degrees Celsius. That's about 17 degrees Fahrenheit. Imagine your home suddenly going dark and cold in the middle of a freezing winter night while explosions rock the city around you. Mayor Vitaly Klitschko reported that municipal services had to deploy portable boiler units just to keep hospitals and maternity wards from freezing. 500,000 people without electricity, hundreds of thousands without water. This wasn't collateral damage. According to you and officials, Russia has been systematically targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure throughout January 2026, weaponizing winter itself. Now, here's the question that's been burning through intelligence communities worldwide. Did Ukraine really strike Russia's nuclear bombers? And if so, when? Hit that like button if you're still with me, because we're about to separate fact from fiction. The confusion stems from Operation Spiderweb. This happened back in June 2025. not January 2026. Ukraine's security service conducted one of the most audacious military operations in modern warfare history. 117 drones, 5 airbases. Deep inside Russian territory. The operation took 18 months to plan. Ukrainian operatives smuggled drones into Russia and concealed them in modified shipping containers. These containers were loaded onto trucks driven by unsuspecting civilians. When the trucks reached positions near Russian air bases, the containers opened remotely and swarms of first-person view drones launched toward their targets. The targets: Russia's strategic bomber fleet, to 95 Bears, to 22 M3 backfires, to 160 Blackjacks, even a 50 airborne early warning aircraft. These aren't just military assets. These are nuclear-capable platforms, part of Russia's strategic nuclear triad. Ukraine claimed 41 aircraft were damaged or destroyed. U.S. officials confirmed about 20 aircraft were hit, with 10 completely destroyed. The Financial Times reported this represented 20% of Russia's operational long-range aviation fleet. Douglas Barry from the International Institute for Strategic Studies said Russia lost a significant part of its heavy bomber fleet with no immediate ability to replace it. These Soviet-era aircraft haven't been in production since 1991. Every loss is permanent. Russia currently produces only 1 strategic bomber per year. It would take at least 7 years just to replace the confirmed losses from Operation Spiderweb. Military expert William Alberkey stated that replenishing these losses could take years or even decades. The attacks forced Russia to disperse its bomber fleet across multiple airbases, significantly reducing Moscow's ability to carry out the kind of overwhelming missile strikes that had terrorized Ukrainian cities for months. But that was June, not January. In January 2026, the strikes on Ukraine intensified to unprecedented levels. On January 13th, Russia launched 293 drones and 18 missiles, hitting critical energy infrastructure across Kyiv, Zaporizhia, Odessa, Sumy, Kharkov, and Donetsk. Several 100,000 households in the Kyiv region alone lost power as temperatures fell to -15 degrees Celsius. Subscribe now if you haven't already, and make sure notifications are turned on, because the implications of what's happening are staggering. The UN reported that 10.8 million people in Ukraine need humanitarian assistance. Attacks on energy infrastructure during freezing temperatures aren't just military tactics. They're targeting the very systems that keep civilians alive during winter. The UN called these attacks unacceptable, unjustifiable violations of international humanitarian law. Under-Secretary General Rosemary DiCarlo told the Security Council that the start of 2026 brought no peace or even respite to Ukraine, but renewed fighting and devastation. She emphasized that as temperatures plummet far below freezing, Russia has intensified systematic attacks targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure, killing and injuring scores of civilians and depriving millions of electricity, heating and water for prolonged periods. Ukraine's response: continued long-range drone strikes on Russian oil infrastructure. On January 10th, Ukrainian forces struck the Zhutovskaya oil depot in Russia's Volgograd region, sparking massive fires. The Ukrainian General Staff stated the depot was supplying fuel to Russian forces. These strikes aim to deprive Moscow of oil export revenue needed to sustain its invasion. On January 9th, Ukraine also struck power and heating plants in the Russian border city of Belgorod, leaving 600,000 residents without electricity and 200,000 without water. What we're witnessing is a fundamental transformation in modern warfare. Drones that cost $2,000 destroying aircraft worth hundreds of millions. Strategic bombers, vulnerable on the ground despite being supposedly protected deep inside Russian territory. hypersonic missiles demonstrating capabilities that make traditional air defense systems obsolete. The Center for Strategic and International Studies asked a haunting question after Operation Spiderweb: is the United States prepared for similar attacks? The answer should concern everyone. Drone incursions already inflicted the first deadly air attack on American soldiers since the Korean War, when 3 troops were killed in Iraq in January 2024. Bernard Henry Levy compared Operation Spiderweb to Israel's pager attacks on Hezbollah fighters, calling it one of the most ingenious military operations in history that will be studied for generations. Leave a comment right now. Do you think traditional military bases can be defended against drone swarms? And if you found this analysis valuable, hit that subscribe button and the like icon to help us bring these critical stories to more people. Here's what the mainstream headlines don't emphasize enough. When Ukraine struck those Russian strategic bombers in June, they weren't just destroying expensive military hardware. They were demonstrating that Russia's strategic nuclear forces are vulnerable. The Carnegie Endowment for International Peace published analysis stating that Operation Spiderweb showed the world just how exposed Russia's strategic nuclear assets really are. Think about the implications. If cargo trucks carrying drones in containers can penetrate Russian territory, park near air bases, and destroy nuclear-capable bombers without being detected until the moment of attack, what does that say about nuclear deterrence? What does it mean for global security when supposedly invulnerable strategic ASSETS can be eliminated by cheap commercial drones piloted remotely from hundreds or thousands of miles away? According to the New START treaty data, strategic aviation accounts for only 12 to 13% of Russia's total nuclear weapons carriers. So the loss of several bombers isn't critical for Russia's ability to conduct a retaliatory nuclear strike. Russia still has intercontinental ballistic missiles and nuclear submarines, but the psychological impact is massive. The vulnerability is undeniable. Russia has relocated dozens of strategic bombers to more remote air bases across the country. But dispersing the fleet reduces operational effectiveness. Maintenance becomes more difficult. Coordinating large-scale strikes becomes more complex. Every adaptation to defend against drone attacks creates new operational challenges. And now, in January 2026, we see Russia's response. Escalation with advanced weapons systems. Systematic targeting of civilian infrastructure during the coldest winter days. Threats delivered via hypersonic missiles launched at NATO borders. The Oreshnik missile system was first used in November 2024 against the Ukrainian city of Dnipro. Its second use in January 2026 wasn't random. It came days after Ukraine and its allies reported major progress toward agreeing on defense guarantees if a US-led peace deal is struck. European leaders condemned the attack as escalatory and unacceptable. The EU's top foreign policy envoy said Putin's reply to diplomacy was more missiles and destruction. President Zelensky called for a clear response from the international community, particularly from the United States, noting that Russia pays attention to American signals. He emphasized that such strikes close to EU and NATO borders represent a grave threat to security on the European continent and a test for the transatlantic community. But here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. Both sides are escalating because neither side sees a path to victory through negotiations alone. Russia can't replace its lost strategic bombers. Ukraine can't restore its energy infrastructure faster than Russia can destroy it. The war has become a grinding battle of attrition where advanced technology meets desperate necessity and civilian populations pay the ultimate price. Financial Times analysis concluded that Russia's strongest leverage now is hitting the energy and heating systems combined with extreme cold. Ukraine's leverage is its demonstrated ability to strike high-value targets anywhere in Russia, including strategic military assets that Moscow cannot afford to lose. So where does this end? Russia. Matters reported that as of January 13, 2026, Russian forces occupied 116,250 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory. That's 19.6% of Ukraine, roughly equivalent to the entire state of Ohio. Russia captured about 2,171 square miles in 2025 alone. Casualty estimates are staggering. Former CIA Director William Burns estimated Russia has suffered 1.1 million casualties. President Trump estimated Ukraine has 400,000 killed or injured. Equipment losses on both sides run into the thousands of tanks, armored vehicles, aircraft. If this is a news aggregator bringing clarity to chaos, we need you to engage. Comment below with your thoughts on how this conflict ends. Subscribe to stay informed on developments. Hit that like button if you appreciate in-depth analysis that goes beyond surface-level headlines. The truth behind the question, did Ukraine really strike Russia's nuclear bombers, is yes, they absolutely did in Operation Spiderweb. But that happened in June 2025, not January 2026. What's happening now is the aftermath, the escalation, the response, the spiraling cycle of attacks and counterattacks with increasingly devastating weapons. Russia demonstrates hypersonic missile capabilities near NATO borders. Ukraine proves it can destroy strategic military assets deep inside Russian territory. Civilians freeze in darkness. Energy infrastructure becomes weaponized. International humanitarian law gets violated repeatedly by both sides, while the world watches and issues statements of concern. This is modern warfare in 2026. Asymmetric, technological, brutal. Where $2,000 drones destroy $7 billion worth of aircraft. Where hypersonic missiles send political messages more than they destroy military targets. Where winter itself becomes a weapon of war. The headlines asked, did Ukraine strike Russia's nuclear bombers? We've given you the facts. Operation Spiderweb in June 2025 was real, unprecedented, and devastatingly effective. The January 2026 attacks are Russia's response, featuring advanced weapon systems and systematic infrastructure targeting. But the real question isn't about what happened. It's about what happens next. And that's a question nobody can answer with certainty. What we can do is stay informed. Understand the facts. Separate truth from propaganda. And that's exactly what this channel does for you. Subscribe now. Turn on notifications. Like this video to help the algorithm share this analysis with more people who need to understand what's really happening beyond the headlines. Leave your thoughts in the comments. This is your news aggregator, cutting through the noise, saving you time, bringing you truth. The world is changing faster than ever. Stay informed, stay ahead, and we'll see you in the next one.